Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Economic Preppers. As always, I'm joined by Patrick and Dylan. But today we have a special guest, Pastor Alin Armstrong. Welcome, Alin.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Look forward to chatting about economic prepping.
Yeah, excellent. And we want to give you a fair introduction here, a nice introduction. Just to follow Alin at PastorCoin on Twitter or X. And also right here, you can see the link right to the Bible in Bitcoin right here, which will take you to his webpage where it talks about his book that he's written. And that book is available through that link on Amazon. And he's also got a YouTube page. Just find it under the Bible in Bitcoin or at the Bible in Bitcoin. So we'll provide links to all that in the details and descriptions below. But first of all, I want to hand it over to Patrick. I think, Patrick, you've had the most conversations with Alin so far. So why don't you go ahead and get the conversation started?
Yeah, so first it's really simple. I came across Alin when I found something he posted on X, and I don't remember what I saw, but when you find something and you're like, wait, this is exactly what I've been trying to say, but I couldn't figure out how to say it, and you see it. And I remember that post really vividly because at that point it was like exactly what I was trying to explain to people. But Jeff, when I tell you, as a Christian, sometimes I just wish pastors would get their head out of sand and try to relate to what's really happening and become educated. Finally, we got one. So I saw it and I was like, you see, equal scale of. I was like, Jesus wouldn't be flipping tables about this because I told you this. Remember about the Bitcoin conference? I was like, man, it used to be cool. Now it's something I feel like Jesus would be flipping tables upside down at it. It's just not fun. So to see these two worlds come together in a way that really resonated with me personally, I just really grew to love his content, and even some of the tweets that you've done, I've shared one of them and it got insane response because I pretty much took it word for word and said, as a Christian, I believe this is about Bitcoin. This is why I like Bitcoin. And they gave me all of the funniest comments back, which drove to great engagement. So my purpose of bringing Alin here is just to say, let's start to have some of these discussions about Bitcoin and break down some of these myths that people don't understand. Because as a Christian, I see it really with two ways. My life is lived simply put like this. I love God. That is my personal relationship. That is my faith. And I love people. And the loving people thing is where I really just started to love our community, because so many people in our community are actually better Christians than most Christians I've ever met. So it's just been a refreshing breath of fresh air just to see some of this, engagement from him and his community and the people that, really try to get at him and get under his skin. And you just see nah, man, it's just not how it works. So, I'm just excited to have him on and hear his perspective and hear how he sees the world of Bitcoin and some of the conversations he's having and bring that to our audience as well. So yeah, thanks, Alin. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, well, thank you for the kind words. I'm not used to kind words, so that's nice to every now and then. Usually usually I'm fighting or defending the faith or something, but that's nice to get a pat in the back every now and then.
Yeah, that's interesting. You bring up that point about defending. It seems like the Christians or the pastors are it's one of those groups that it feels like everybody can just hate on or just come at, and you're constantly defending your point. Whereas other people in other different areas, it's either a battle or expected battle or why are you hating on them? But it seems like everybody likes to beat on the church or whatever, or those who believe in the Bible. Do you find that? Is that exhausting for you with that kind of attitude you often encounter?
Well, that's a really good question. I have a lot of young kids, so I'm just always exhausted. So I don't know if the exhaustion is from just life or from sort of what I'm doing with my life. Maybe it's a bit of both, maybe.
Yeah, you do kind of think what are you doing with your life?
Patrick just had a baby last week, so he fully understands.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't have any kids. I think
I resonate with that so much. What are we doing with our life?
Well, it's just one of those things where you're in a perpetual state of exhaustion. So you kind of just learn to function in it and it's a season of life. It is what it is. But it's I was talking to a Christian brother just a couple hours ago. We were talking about time preference and how Bitcoin really changes people's time preference from a high to a low. And I said, it's kind of strange that in the church, typically, if you're around an average church, the values of family and children and these things are going to be promoted and exalted. But for some reason, having children doesn't seem to really change the time preference as much as learning about money, which is strange to me, because when you have kids, it lowers your time preference, at least it should, almost naturally, because now you have a human being that you're responsible for, and you can't just do whatever you want anymore. Like before,
no, bro, they consume resources at extreme pace with like diapers alone. You always have to outpace diaper use.
It's not just diapers, it's time. They consume your time, especially in the early stages. Yes. The time consumption, the time it requires to care for these, so our first kids were twins. So we went from 0 to 2. We had some parabolic growth happened. So it was like just complete insanity. And before kids, it was a situation where we could do whatever we want. Hey, you want to go out for dinner? Sure. You want to go for a walk? After kids, it's nothing. Like you're just, how do I say?
You can't even speak.
If you are selfish, it will strip that from you violently. And kids will teach you how to be selfless. So anyways, I don't know how we got off that rabbit trail. Right, because I don't know if that answers your question at all, but it's exhausting either way.
Jeff, you kind of get where he's going. You ask him like, hey man, is it like hard being a pastor and a Christian? He's like, yeah, but man, we got a lot of kids. That's hard work. I'm tired. What did you say?
Yeah, exactly. It is hard. Yeah, it is hard. Yeah.
But no, I hear you on that, because you're right. You'd think having a kid would, increase your time horizon, where you'd think a little bit more long term. You think about college and 20 years out. But when you think about Bitcoin, it's really easy for you to think, especially after you've been through a cycle, right? Once you've been through a 4-year cycle and you get the same feelings again, you go, okay, I can wait this next 2 years for this feeling. I know what's going on. So once you kind of get into that Bitcoin cycle, you've seen 2 or 3 of the happenings, then you go, okay, I know I'm just going to outweight this. No big deal. I'm just going to keep DCAing. I'm stacking sats. I know the name of the game. Love God, love people, stack sats.
Yeah, that's it. It teaches you patience for sure. And a lot of people, they, even in the church, they just can't fathom the idea of saving in a money that may have short-term volatility, right? They can't fathom that, and it is what it is. It is what it is. But
I want to have a question on that, because I think that's an interesting point you bring up on time preference, high versus low time preference. And just if you're listening, if you don't know the difference between high time preference and low time preference, high time preference is like you want things now, you want to consume it in the present, versus low, you're willing to wait longer, right? You're willing to make sacrifices in the present for your future. And I think that's fascinating that people in the church don't make that connection with something like Bitcoin, because a lot of the things and teachings in the church are sacrificing in the present, even if there's volatility, for your future, right? And that's like a core tenet, is like, don't give into your basic impulses, because that can lead you down a path of darkness and corruption, right? You need to hold off. You need to look for guidance. You need to ponder things and these big ideas, and that's kind of what Bitcoin teaches you. I know Patrick has his website, what is it, satpulse.io, where you price everything in sats. And if you look at the trends on those things, like, you may want that new fancy barbecue grill or whatever, but you might be like, well, mine works. The one I have works just fine. And if I spend the money on it now, well, I won't have those sats later. And adopting that low time preference, I think, is incredibly critical. So I think it's interesting that people don't quite get it. And real quick, I'll let you comment on it. But my feeling is that we all have significantly higher time preference than we would like to believe, even in the Bitcoin space. The number of Bitcoiners that got into the space that preached low time preference over the years, only to like look back and you see their actions, or you see their ideas, or you see what they've done, only to reveal that they really don't have as low of time preference, is fascinating to me.
Yeah, when number go up, temptation hits, right? And especially if you've been holding through a bear market, once that number starts going up, maybe I'll get a Lambo. Maybe I'll, for me, the way I handle Bitcoin is I like money. I have different savings accounts, right? Wallets, whatever. And I have an account for my new car, for a furnace and AC, for home renovations. I have a legacy stack, not touching it. I have for the kids. So it's all broken up so that when number go up, there's no temptation to say, oh, wow, I really want a Lambo. Or, well, how many sats do I have in my car account? Okay, that's all I got, right? That's all I got for a car. And chances are it's more than you need anyways. I don't know about you guys. I'm not much of a car guy, right? I'm okay with, listen, if it's got 4 wheels and gets me where I need to go, that's all I need. So I don't care too much for materialistic things. you know what? That's not true. I guess if you were to categorize me as a guy, a thing guy, I'm kind of a tool guy. I could go into Home Depot and spend $10,000 easily with tools I probably don't need right now. But
Yeah, I'm a tool guy too.
yeah. Are you a Milwaukee, DeWalt? What are you?
Glock.
Oh,
Different kind of
nice.
tool.
We don't have those tools in Canada, unfortunately.
True.
I'm so sorry, but you got different tools, right? Canada's a very different place.
Yes,
That's unfortunate.
I know. I have a BB gun. That's about the extent of it.
Alan,
Well, I got these guns though, but that's about it.
Wait, but I thought Canadians were allowed to have long guns. They can own long gun rifles for hunting.
We can own guns. We just can't use them for self-defense.
Then I would still be a Glock fanatic up there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would also have guns and not use them. That's fine.
So Alan, I think you've touched on a few topics that you've already hit in your first chapter, which was very illustrative. And I think that one of the topics you talked about there, not just about time and energy, but also about money and the concept of money, that people they don't quite understand what money is. Is that a theme that you see? Like, that's something we encounter a lot, and just explaining our economics and our viewpoints on things with precious metals and Bitcoin. But do you encounter that as well quite often?
The lack of financial literacy in the Western church. I can't speak for anywhere else. I don't know what the church is like in Asia or Europe or South America. I don't know. But in the West, Canada, United States, what I've encountered is just a financial illiteracy. People, you're to ask any average pew sitter, what is money? You get probably a blank stare. Maybe they start to answer and then say something like, actually, I've never actually thought about this before. So that's a lot of what I get. So yeah, there's a lack of financial literacy. People don't really think about money as a metaphysical thing that it is. They just sort of go with the flow. Well, I go to work and I get dollars in my account for the work, so I guess that's money. Well, okay, that's fine, but have you ever stopped to consider, like, where does that come from? Why is it the money we use? When did it start becoming the money we use? How does it get produced? Who produces it? Right? No one's asking these questions, because I feel like if you did ask these questions, there would be upheaval in the streets. There would be riots in the streets.
Questions, right?
Right.
We're
Yeah.
get to hear about it, because some people did, and I asked my parents the same question, like, where were you guys? What did you think money was? Like, how did you not know this? Why my kids are not going to become victim of the same problem? Like, they know.
They don't teach it in school. I went to public school. I will not send my kids to public school. Never. I won't, especially in Canada. Not a chance. But even in the United States, I don't think they teach this stuff in public school.
No.
They don't teach you
No.
where money comes from, what money is. They don't teach you this. It's just, instead of teaching you what money is, economics, foundational principles for these things, what they teach you is how to become a cog in their economic system.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Don't learn the system, because if you learn it, you won't want to be a cog in it.
Yeah.
And so instead, just shut your mouth, do your work, memorize and repeat what we tell you you need to memorize and repeat.
Invest in your 401k.
Yeah. Go to college, get in a crippling debt,
Mm-hmm.
lobby the government to pay it off for you, get mad when they don't, work for a living, pay off your debt if you're lucky to. Like, what was that wrestler Taz? He used to say, beat me if you, this is the fiat system right now. This is what they say to you. Beat me if you can, survive if I let you. That's the fiat system.
Yeah.
And you can't beat them and you don't survive it.
That's why you get out of that system and you stop playing their game. You just
Yeah.
don't play that game.
Well,
That's
and the reason why they don't teach what money is like, in part it's on purpose, because the teachers, like, let's be fair, teachers don't know what money is. They're just average
Right.
people just trying to get by. They have passion about something.
Yeah.
But the reason why it didn't come down from above, or it's not mandated, is because the money that we call money, that we talk about, that people generally think we're referring to when we say money, the fiat dollar, is not actual money, right? It's a trick. And I like to talk about that a lot. Is like, people say the money's broken. It's like, no, the fiat dollar is doing exactly what's intended to do, to extract wealth and resources and basically harvest energy
Yes.
and the productivity of the mass human population.
Yeah.
And, when you start thinking about it like that, it's like, it's a brilliant invention for the people in control and in power that are leading it. Like, they can, they have this large group of people that are forced to use, or forced to believe and end up thinking that the money that they have is real, and they get to just harvest those resources as they see fit. And if people saw that, there would be, like, I think what he says in Jekyll Island, or if people really understood what money was, they'd be riots in the streets tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just found there was Henry
there's-
Ford said that if it is well enough the people in the nation do not understand the banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. That was from 1937. So this isn't new news at all. It's been out there for a while. They just don't tell you about it in our school system, which is also lacking.
Well, the school system itself is funded by the Ponzi, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then renegades like us, we come out here and say these controversial things and are demonized as radicals and psychopaths and whatever else they call Bitcoiners. And what are you gonna do? Hey, what are you gonna do? Opt out. That's all you can do. And thank God for Bitcoin that there is an opt out.
That's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I say if Jesus was here, he would talk about Bitcoin more. I think he would like it. He'd say, give to Caesar what's Caesar's, and then never get anything that's Caesar's again and just use Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. Bitcoin does not belong to the Caesar, belongs to a computer network. So I guess you could say, give to the miners what is the miners, and give to God what is God's, because the miners are the ones that collect the fees. And so maybe under a Bitcoin standard, you might see people say, those miners, they're taking too much. And then Jesus might say, well, give to them what is theirs, give to God what is God's. Done.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that. It fits with my belief system very well, what you just said. I love it. Thank you. Jeff, do you not agree what he's saying sounds beautiful? Give to miners what is miners? As a miner, I resonate with that deeply.
I agree with
you're doing the work.
I agree with everything he's saying about it's tokenized energy, and energy and time are the two most lacking and precious resources. And once if people don't understand, they'll never be able to manage or get out of a monetary or a financial system without understanding time, energy, and money and what those really are.
Exactly. I just made a video recently where I muse on energy. And really, when you think about it, it's not rocket science. I think Michael Saylor said it. The society which harnesses energy most efficiently wins.
Mhm.
That's really it. It's really that simple. If you want a prosperous society, you only really have to do one thing: deliver cheap, abundant energy to the people. That's it. All you have to do. People will do the rest. And the whole ESG thing and the climate scam and all this type of stuff that's going on is an attack on the prosperity of the people. You want prosperity, you want people to innovate and become self-sufficient, just provide energy. That's all you have to do. Provide energy and get out of the way.
Yeah,
Period. It's a cheat code.
But the other thing, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say that's one of the things that's been they've been the powers that be have been trying to restrict the most is access to cheap and usable energy, pushing these green climate that don't work, or just like trying to get rid of gas or other fuel sources, propane, and forcing you to electric that they can control if it goes on or off.
That's exactly the point I was trying to make. Is I remember in that post you specifically made a comment like, the Bitcoin monetary policy removes the decision making out of the hands from evil men, right? We look all around us and they're the ones who we agree are like, wait a sec, come on, right? You can't be making that policy up. You can't be telling us how to do this. They're the ones who are evil, putting together these rules on us. With Bitcoin, you can't do that.
Yeah. Bitcoin's like a sport in the sense where you know the rules. If you're going to play by the rules, period.
And you don't need an army to enforce it was one of the things you said. You said something like it was one of the most moral monies.
Yeah. On a policy level, Bitcoin is the most moral monetary network that human beings have ever had access to. And it really is, because it like you said, it takes monetary policy out of the hands of sinful men and places it on a protocol of math. And math is just
absolute.
It's absolute. It's objective. It's true. It is what I call the language of creation. When God created the heavens and earth, the Bible says he spoke. Right? He said, let there be light. And then the rest of chapter 1 fleshes it out. Let there be an expanse. Let there be earth. Let there be animals. God speaks and physical things come into being. If you look at deep enough into the material world, you'll discover you can actually quantify it all. Everything in creation is quantifiable. It can all be deduced to numbers. You can understand the world through numbers. And this is sort of like what computer code is. Computer code is like God's method of design and creation on a very micro scale. Because what computer code is just language, right? And this language, if you were to just see the raw language of a computer program, unless you're a coder, would just be gobbledygook. What am I looking at? This doesn't make any sense. But when you hit the execute button, something real happens. Something comes into order, into being, that's useful and that has utility. This is Bitcoin's. How do I say? Method of existence. It's computer code that executes utility. It's computer code. It's language that executes utility. And so in that way, it's very much similar to God's creation just on a very micro scale. After all, God did say he made us in his image to go and do what he does. So that's why it's beautiful. That's why it's the most moral monetary system, because it took God's language of creation and put it on a network that executes that without the need of human beings making any decisions whatsoever. I don't know if any of that made sense, but it did to me.
Well, I like that. I like that idea. There's a book you might like. It's called Our Mathematical Universe. It's by a guy named Max Tegmark. Have you heard of it?
I have not heard of it. No.
So basically, he just explores the nature of our reality. And his thesis or theory is that, the universe is a mathematical construct. And like some people could take that to, to be, okay, there is no God or whatnot, but I think it fits with either perspective that you want to go with. That if, like you said, if math is God's language and that is the base of everything, then the things that we see that rely on math, right, that can be verified, that can be true, right, those are going to be the things that are true and accurate. And as soon as you start operating outside of that, then you get issues like when you put a human in charge of a monetary policy and the human can just change the rules on a whim, on an emotion, right? You're no longer operating in the realm of mathematics and you're changing the formula, you're changing the structure. And when you change the formula and structure, you can lead to different outcomes. And those outcomes don't always lead to success. Like we've seen over and over and over again. Like if you look at evolution and creation, there's certain formulas for life that have ended because they were not set up for success in certain environments. And, that's what happens when people get in charge of any sort of system and they make changes, right? They change the fundamental structure and then an environment arises that's hostile, that's competitive, and it outcompetes, or that whatever structure they created isn't able to compete in that. And if you're constantly changing things, it makes it very, very hard for, the average person to participate.
Yeah, there are laws in the universe that are universal. And one of those laws is the law of sowing and reaping. God has created the world in such a way that in order to reap, you must sow. You cannot speak things into existence. I cannot say, let there be a cheeseburger, and then the cheeseburger shows up. It'd be nice, but I can't do it. You have to sow. You have to find the cow. You have to kill the cow. You got to cut it up. You got to grind it up, put it in a package, put it on. You got to sow. You got to do work.
Yep.
In order to reap. This is a universal law. So what fiat money has done is it's taken this law and basically erased it. What fiat money purports to do is create value, money, which is what we measure value in, create money, which is value, by decree, right? That's what fiat means. It means decree. In the Latin Bible, Genesis 1:1-1:2 says, fiat lux, let there be light. So God, and only God, from the Christian perspective, is capable of creating real value out of fiat. Okay, there's two categories I put these under. There's divine fiat and carnal fiat. Divine fiat is when God says, let there be a thing, and it comes to be, and it's actually good. Or there's a reason why God says, and it was good. And it was good. Because his fiat created good and valuable, tangible things. Carnal fiat is when man says, let there be. Such as when the central bank says, let there be money. Well, guys, that's not how money works. You can't just decree money. You have to sow to reap. In the case of gold, you have to sow energy to unearth it. God put it there. It's valuable, but you can't just decree it into existence. You have to actually sow energy to reap the value. So fiat money is carnal fiat, whereas something like gold or Bitcoin, which requires energy expenditure to unearth or to issue into the market, is consistent with that law of sowing and reaping. So therefore honors the design and code that God put into the universe.
So, Alin, are you in your travels and your conversations? Do you see a lot of parallels to just parallels that just bubble up that you see that between the Bible and Bitcoin? And is that part of your thesis in the book? Like, for example, like we don't know who created Bitcoin. There's a name that we give it. It's Satoshi Nakamoto, much like the Bible gives the name God. We don't know who God is, but they clearly exist. There's clearly a Satoshi Nakamoto, who's like in the parallel, to extend the metaphor, he would be the God of Bitcoin, but we don't know who he is. So do you see other kind of parallels between the Bible and Christianity and Bitcoin itself?
You know, I've seen a lot of theories online comparing Bitcoin's policy with the Bible and different things. And they are interesting. I'm not gonna lie, they're very interesting and creative. But you know, as far as parallels are concerned, this is how I view Bitcoin. Bitcoin is sound money, the most sound money we've ever had, that honors God's commandments and design. And fiat is the exact opposite, right? People talk about the mark of the beast. What's the mark of the beast? Is it going to be a CBDC or whatever?
World coin.
Yeah, world coin.
Okay, see, we can all agree on that. That's like evil. That's like definitely like one of Satan's demons. I don't know how bad it is, but that's evil stuff there.
Well, anything that mimics fiat is going to be evil. And fiat money, the fiat money cartel, as I like to call it, looks more like a satanic mark of the beast than Bitcoin ever will. So that's just how I view Bitcoin. I don't like to get into too much of like parallels between, you know, God and like Christ and the protocol. Like, I just view Bitcoin as money that's moral and good. And if there was no fiat money, like, I wouldn't need to write this book, right? I wouldn't need to. It wouldn't be. It would just be money. And sometimes I think about it and I go, it's interesting, you know, that we call ourselves Bitcoiners, because nobody calls themselves like dollarites, right? Or peso, you know, ites or whatever. There's going to come a day, I think, where people just understand Bitcoin is money, and there will be no Bitcoiners. It will just be money. Or maybe it won't. Maybe we'll all be Bitcoiners and we'll all be toxic together. I don't know.
I don't know, man, because right now people would say the same about gold, and they would say, man, gold is real money, but not a lot of people have any gold or silver. I think the public, the masses, they're okay being controlled. They don't care. They don't even, I mean, man, like you go to church and you're barely listening anyways, right? Like they go to the news stations and they barely listen anyways. They don't really care. They're just so in the routine. People don't have time to learn. They don't care. They're just okay being spoon-fed what they need for the next day.
Yeah, it's a symptom of fiat, all what you're describing. Go back in time to the days where, you know, maybe you still see them, these beautiful cathedrals that used to be built, like the Sistine Chapel, right? That painting of in that chapel is world famous. It's like the best painting ever. It's beautiful. It's massive. People come to look at it and take pictures. Well, that was all inspired under a hard money standard. There's a reason why buildings of the past look beautiful and buildings today don't. Right? Buildings today are ugly. I was with my kids at the park, and I seen a building being built, and I go, "Hey, that's the new school building over there, I think." And they go, and the lady that's next to us goes, "Yeah, that's the new one they're putting up." And I go, "Man, that looks like a jail. Doesn't that look like a jail to you?" Goes, "Yeah." And I was on another podcast, and the guy says, "Man, it's funny you say that, because I was just talking to a friend of mine who is a contractor. They build commercial buildings. They have contracts with the government." And he said, when we build schools, we literally use the blueprints of jails as our guide.
Because they're secure and defensible. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, there you go. Education, beauty. I mean, art, this gets controversy when people say it, but even art has become ugly now. You know, you take a banana and you duct tape it to a white wall, and this is like art now. What? This is crazy. It's all a symptom of the fiat. When you devalue the thing that human beings denominate all things in, you devalue the human being, and beauty becomes ugly. Look at what's happening, guys. Ugly is beautiful now.
Yeah, I think that people learn through pain is one example. Is that and you can't learn beauty sometimes without seeing ugly. You can't like I remember when I was in Europe and I was in Prague, and you could see across the river, you could see the communist side and the ugly buildings versus the old chapels that were made hundreds of years ago and how beautiful they were. But like part of the way that people learn is through pain. So maybe you need to have fiat money now and learn the pain to really appreciate that is beautiful in what Bitcoin represents.
That's absolutely correct. And that's what's happening. And I am optimistic about the future. I do think the pain that's caused right now, by fiat, is going to eventually get so painful. It's going to come to a boiling point where people are so desperate that they're looking everywhere. And Seyfuddin Ammous says in his book, I think the fiat standard, or it could be the Bitcoin standard, I forget which one he says this in, but essentially he says that history testifies that the hardest money always wins. It just, how long it takes for it to win is undetermined. We don't know. But over the course of recorded history, we have seen it play out with other things that were used as money, such as gold. Eventually, the hardest money will win. How long? I don't know. Bitcoin is the hardest money. And if that streak of history continues, it's only a matter of time before people are in so much pain that they say, well, I think Bitcoin's the solution. And it's right there and it's obvious.
Yeah.
Well, guys, is any other questions for this? Has been a fantastic discussion. I'm sure we could go on for quite a while longer. Dylan, do you have any, or Patrick, anything else that you wanted to fire off?
No, I just wanted to share one of my, cool people that I like to follow and just a resource that I enjoy having, because it really is a different perspective to a discussion that many people are having right now. And what I see happening like all around us is, no one's saying that I'm listening to, things are going to get really good here next week, guys. Like, just wait. It's going to be amazing. We don't see that. What we do see is confusion, chaos, things that don't make sense, where it leaves us people who aren't even that, bright. We just look at this going, Joe Brown posted something today. Do you have his Twitter up, Jeff? If you can get on Twitter and pull Joe Brown's Twitter up, it was quite insane. They were literally having like a demonstration in the street for the rights to identify as a dog and bark in the street. You saw that, right?
It was in Germany or England or something.
Yeah,
it was
so
in
you
Europe
see that
somewhere.
stuff, and you look at that and you're going, and if you can actually hear that video, I don't know if you can get it through, but they're literally barking and howling like animals. It's insane. And when you watch that, you just start laughing so hard because you look at them and you go, I can't even relate to this at all. Like, this doesn't make any sense at all. And people are out here looking at garbage like this, trying to make sense of what's happening around them. And I'll be bold enough to say that I think a lot of people are looking for answers in the wrong place. So I think it's important to consider like where you find your center, where you find your peace, because I'm not even going to go on like a pastor preach it method. I'm not going to do that here. But what I will say is the money is not going to bring happiness. That will not be it. I have found more happiness and joy in my friends like Dylan and Jeff and people who may not even believe half of what I believe, just because we have been here for each other. We love each other. And I think that's something that we kind of got to get back to, is don't let the noise distract you. I think that's the message I would say today as we end, is take a second and realize that, you guys, we don't have to look alike, think alike, act alike, or even have the same belief systems to recognize something that's truly beautiful. And when we see the concept of Bitcoin, and you see that the scale of measure, the transparency, the truth that is the blockchain that can't be changed, these are things that should empower us to do better. and empower us to create better solutions within our own communities and networks, and really transact in value that stays here with each other, not to the big banks.
Yeah.
When you pay each other, it stays here. So my big point is, take a second and recognize that this isn't a show just to teach you how to make what you have go longer, or how to just save money, or how to save and share wealth. It's a show to say, how are we going to be prepared for what is coming? And what I'm trying to say here is being prepared looks in many different ways, but it can also look like making sure that you take time to reach out to your community, people who think like you, people who value the same things you do, and make those networks. Invite them. I reached out to invite him to Vegas. He wasn't coming because he didn't like me enough yet. So the next show, I'm going to try to get him to come, and we'll sell books and we'll have fun and we'll bring each other's communities so that we can all get to know each other.
When is the thing in Vegas again? When is it?
Next weekend, guys. If you're not coming, October 1st is the last day of the event. Starts September 29th on Friday at Caesar's Palace. G. Edward Griffin will be there. Of course, Economic Ninja, you guys know him. Heresy Financial, Joe Brown, Jack Gamble, Nobody Special Finance, many other people as well, guys, like Uneducated Economist, G. Edward Griffin. So you guys, oh man, 8 days. Oh my gosh. Woo.
Yeah, there's there you can find a lot of the Silver Symposium page and see
Open invite to you, Alan. If you want to make it out, you'll be able to partake in our God and Gold discussion on Sunday morning. That should be a very fun one.
I wish I could. I'll be in Los Angeles on October for the Bitcoin.
That's the next weekend, I think.
Pacific Bitcoin,
Yeah.
Pacific Bitcoin. I'll be there. I don't know if anyone else is going, but I'll be there. And
I have a lot of noise at my house, so I would like to leave and go to that too.
I guess I'll just say this. When you honor God's law, good things will happen. God has given us laws about money, standards for money, and when we use those and follow those, he says good things will happen, right? You will live long in the land, the Bible says. And it's really that simple. It's really that simple. And what we're seeing is the opposite happening now because we have unjust monetary policies in our nations. Yesterday, I was at a protest, and it was in Canada, the 1 million March for Children. It was a march against the gender identity stuff in schools and all that kind of stuff. And I was talking with one guy, and he was telling me about, oh, you're a bigot, and you should be more inclusive in this kind of stuff. And I just said, look, man, let me put it to you this way. If your daughter was going to fight Mike Tyson in the ring, would you allow her to do that just to affirm her supposed gender identity? I thought for sure I had him. I'm like, no way. He goes, yeah, of course I would. I'm like, dude, she is going to literally die. Don't you realize that? Mike Tyson will kill her. He kills grown men.
Mike Tyson's nice. He won't hit a girl. That's what he's banking on. You guys can't even believe that. No, he's a nice guy. I don't believe he would swing, and I think that's what he's banking on, because he can't be stupid enough to really let his daughter get hit by Mike Tyson.
Well, that's the thing. This is the level of virtue signaling. And even some of the protesters who were with him, like one lady, she was pregnant, and she kind of looked at me like, no, not Mike Tyson. So I use that illustration just to say this. The clown world, the circus tent is growing larger, but don't be dismayed, because the bigger the clown tent, the greater the fall. And I presume this is about economic prepping. So the clown tent is growing and is going to fall. So you want to be ready when the clown tent falls so that you don't end up under an elephant or anything like that. So, yeah, opt out, Bitcoin, love God, love your neighbor. That's my message.
Yeah, and we're all about here on Economic Preppers of being prepared and not scared and keeping things simple. And this is just another voice that's out there, that's the champion. There's so much alignment here with what Alan has to say. And here he is again. If you want to go out and find him, follow him on Twitter at PastorCoin. And again, on his right at the header here, you can find his book. And it's also available on Amazon, The Bible and Bitcoin. And also on YouTube. You can find them at the Bible and Bitcoin. So,
Can I
Alan,
ask one question before we're done, Jeff?
Sure, go
Have
ahead.
you read the book of Enoch, Alan?
Yes, I have. Read the
Okay,
book.
that's enough there. I'll talk to you later. We'll have more
Okay.
discussions. Guys, we'll have
Also-
Alan on later.
If you
All right.
want to buy bulk copies of the book, hit me up. I can get you a discount. If you buy it on the website with Bitcoin, it's only $10 per book when you buy up to 10 at a time. So that's savings of $5 per book when you buy with Bitcoin.
Interesting. We'll
That's
definitely have to have that we will have a follow-up conversation about the Book of Enoch another time. I'm certain of that. But Alan, thank you for joining us today. We wish you could be at our event next week, but we understand and enjoy the event out in Los Angeles, and we'll definitely cross paths in the future, both here and in the present. So, but for Patrick and for Alan and for Dylan, this is Jeff saying, be prepared and not scared, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Peace.